February 18th, 2022. I'm rewatching the 6 o'clock news with Channel 7. It's called Eyewitness News. It's the ABC version. And on comes Mayor Eric Adams, and he made a speech of some sort of statement, I don't know, with, they had a clip with the cameras of areas that I've never ventured into, certainly, they call, now here's the key op words: transit, Transit. It's the underground. In London, they call it the underground. I believe Boston, they call it the Metro, Metro. Here in New York, they call it Subway, Subway. Those are hot topic words that are a bone of contention for me since whatever in the last whole in time and space seemed to get a little aggressive with their confusion on geographical map the words and where the problems actually were. So now Mayor Eric Adams is speaking apparently in the places I don't venture into, certainly not alone. There's a homeless problem where vagrants or migrants or however they entered New York, I don't know for sure, but they have bags of whatever and they're sleeping on the subway. He even says that they're it's BBQ, barbecuing. He calls it barbecue, but again, that's just a differential in the inflection of to how whatever. So actually, like, it's more like an intonation or an incantation. I'm not quite sure how they are comfortable in the sound patterns being slightly off from what I normally use in my flat American. So now, I've used, when I was working at the bank, Chase, Chase, the training facility was in Manhattan. I think this was 2009. And I had to take the Ronkonkoma Long Island Railroad to the subways to Penn Station, Penn, Penn station. And then I had to take a subway to wherever the building was, which I can't remember. I'm not good with Manhattan, and I'm whatever. So I went to the training facility, and one of the days where they sent me into Manhattan for training, I had a man. I was sitting in the subway car, and he grabbed the railing on both sides, and he was a very dark-skinned man. I don't know. I don't have an idea of what type or what area, but he started screaming at me in such a, like, and I couldn't, like, he literally had himself barred in front of me where I couldn't even, like, get up and get around him, and I was in my Chase uniform. When I arrived at Chase, and, like, I looked at the other passengers in the car, because the car was full, but nobody was saying anything to the man to tell the man to leave me alone, or, like, whatever. I mean, that's just New York. They don't tend to get involved. I don't know. At least when I'm involved, they don't get involved. So, I left the subway car, I went inside Chase, and I told the instructors immediately. I was shaken because I was so frightened of whatever that man was. So I alerted the banking staff, and then that was it. They continued with the training and whatever. They didn't make a recommendation of like filing a police report or anything. So, I mean, I don't know, whatever. Again, I don't frequent the city, and I don't ride on subways often. So, but this is what they're saying. Now, I know in boxcars, BOXCARS, and like 1800s with US Steel, and there was something else with the subways or the trains, TRAINS, on tracks going, cross country and things. There were like certain things put in place, I thought, but here they are speaking of where now we're past the 1800s, where now I arrived in the 19th century, now I'm in the 20th century, and this is how the 20th century looks after the railway phenomenon was installed, however that happened.
But David Muir will have more coming up at 6:30. Back in our area, a new plan to try to attack the problem of homeless people turning subway cars and subway stations into bedrooms. New York Mayor Adams and Governor Hochul by his side during this, launching a subway safety plan, which starting next week will hook up homeless people now in the subways to people who can treat mental illness and find them shelter. Concurrently, we learned that stabbings in the subway this year so far.
I mean, this woman right here, she's laying down and sleeping in the subway car.
Are up 35%. Here's NJ Burkett.
Many New Yorkers say they are riding the subway only because they have to. Tonight, Mayor Adams says he's determined to change that.
The system is not made to be housing. It's made to be transportation.
It may be the most ambitious effort.
Transportation. There's a paradigm, whatever, with how the transport got to this, whatever. And there are certain requirements of tenancy and residency and so on and so forth. What they are, I have no idea because I haven't been introduced into it. But I am certain that whatever allowance was made for some new concept that I discovered in the 7 articles of quartering, I don't think that subway cars qualify for proper living quarters.
For in decades to tackle crime and homelessness in the transit system. NYPD officers patrolling the subways will be expected to enforce the MTA's code of conduct. A multitude of criminal and non-criminal offenses like sleeping on board trains and carrying piles of...
This is really frightening. I mean, I don't know the story behind this, but I mean, this is not how subway system, I mean, it's for respectable people who pay respectable fares to transport themselves throughout the city. That's civilized.
Of trash and possessions. Police will be expected to issue summonses once again for fare beating.
No more smoking, no more doing drugs, no more sleeping, no more doing barbecues on the subway system, no more just doing whatever you want. No, those days are over.
Passengers will be expected to exit their trains at the end of the line and will be escorted off if necessary. The trains and stations will be patrolled by police and mental health professionals in joint outreach teams. Housing placement processes will be streamlined, and access to psychiatric hospital beds will be expanded. Shams DeBaron was once homeless himself.
Those people will leave if they're given a better option. They don't want to be there. They may not want to go in a congregate shelter, but they don't want to be there.
It all comes as violent crime in the subways is surging. Some of it.
I mean, I was in shock.
At the hands of
This...
They may not want to go in
Hold
a
on.
congregate shelter, but they don't want to be there.
He just walks straight up to this woman and just pushes her.
There.
It all comes as violent crime in the subways is surging. Some of it.
That is not civil obedience. That is not enjoying a common space in humility and civility and safety. These are violent acts.
Of it at the hands of the mentally ill and emotionally disturbed. Jacqueline Simone of the Coalition for the Homeless applauded the expanded services.
Again, what I don't understand is why are there housing allowances, housing arrangements? Why is there Air Force or aviation being developed and being allowed to grow within the interior of North America within my life frame? I mean, I was not invited in to an aviation society. I just wasn't. I don't know why. I was not invited into a coastal employment society. I was not invited into a land society. So I'm confused where I need to address things since I was built for planetary and spatial whatever in important something or other. And instead, this illusion with all these other personal delusions of other people, like they each have their own version of humanity, is going on simultaneously based on their field of work, based on their sector. So their sector functions this way. That's one operational, I mean, they have other words to use, but in my illusion, where I've been held or where I've been allowed to operate through or around, I have not been able to gain access to participation in the way that I would have preferred to function. And it was supposed to be by special marriage. That didn't even happen. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. It's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxies, broken. It's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.